Keir Starmer as a kind of conduit and funnel to the new world order, exactly the type of politician required to augur centralised uber-national power. So that, and the phrase that scared me most is when you said Britain is being deliberately dismantled. Throughout that, what I started to question is, where will true opposition voices come from? Are you going to see them come from the what used to be regarded as the right, parties like Reform? Are they going to provide solutions realistically? And I mentioned when introducing this item the significance of, do you want to call them online voices, activist voices? I don't even know how to describe figures that seem so modern as Andrew Tate. Tommy Robinson, I can kind of get a handle on Tommy Robinson. He's the kind of working class activist the left used to always claim they wanted. And when you do get a working class activist, you might not like what that working class activist's perspectives are, and what, if you come from Luton, what your take is going to be on sort of social dynamics and Islam and multiculturalism and the areas where Tommy Robinson is often attacked. And whatever he's in jail for, and I know that it's sort of sub-judiciary and potentially jeopardising the trial of people like that are up on trial for grooming gangs, and indeed his position in his documentary that Elon Musk has reposted, it seems like I don't mean to say this because it sounds sort of somewhat irresponsible. When you step away from the sort of some of the details around Andrew Tate and Tommy Robinson, which I acknowledge can be kind of troubling just in terms of rhetoric and stance and even style, what is it when you talk about someone like Starmer, who's like an avatar, a ghost, a kind of phantom politician, the man who's not really there? Almost in his voice you can hear that, in that kind of absence of the kind of nasal, throaty voice, that there's a kind of an absence at his core. Like, what are these kind of somewhat priapic, earthy, occasionally erratic, authentic, difficult figures that are starting to kind of rise up like a new Gog Magog while these aisles are being kind of dismantled? I wonder if you can comment on that modern cultural phenomenon and what deeper roots it might have. But also, I wondered if you could cover me, because I must have missed this while was out of the country. Like, that Starmer was the equivalent of an AG. He was the head attorney general. He was the head of the CPS for a long time before he entered into politics. While he was head of the CPS, I'm guessing, because I don't know about, the Savile case, the famous abuse and paedophilia case within the BBC, somehow reached the CPS? Is that what? Because that's not a story that I know or I'm understanding. I knew that posthumously people found out that Jimmy Savile had been abusing and exploiting children, mentally ill people, even dead bodies, just like the worst story about someone that was a public figure, a revolting monster. And I even saw kind of attempts when I was falsely accused of sex crimes to sort of somehow suggest that I was part of a pantheon with actual terrifying monsters like Jimmy Savile. Now, how did the Jimmy Savile story, did that actually reach the CPS? Would the Crown Prosecution Service under Starmer engage with that, and was some decision made not to pursue it? It's not something I fully understand. And then off the back of that, can you talk about these other sort of giant figures in the cultural landscape like Robinson and Tate and all that?
When it comes to Keir Starmer, Director of Public Prosecutions, I don't know enough of the legal detail either. He has stated an official position where, yes, he was in that position. Jimmy Savile's, accusations were coming into the system about Jimmy Savile, and that, it's undeniable that no action was taken against Jimmy Savile while he was alive. The way in which that happened and who was, whether or not Keir Starmer was, whether it came across his desk and he specifically, made the declaration that no action should be taken, I don't know. But, the buck stops here, in that famous sense. He was the boss of that entity that was supposed to keep the people safe from people like Jimmy Savile, and he didn't. That happened on his watch. Whether or not he was directly responsible for the decisions taken as to whether or not Jimmy Savile should be investigated, accused, tried, or anything else, it begs the question, because we now know that so many people were suspicious of and right up to making allegations about Jimmy Savile for years. It turns out that it was common knowledge amongst many people that Jimmy Savile was operating in that way, and allegations were being made, and officialdom was being contacted, and one way or another, the record shows that nothing was done about Jimmy Savile. And he was friend of royalty. He was chums with Prince Charles, now King Charles, and all of the rest of it. No action was taken. And the truth of all of that has been obfuscated and occulted. Very difficult to get to it. But it goes without saying that it doesn't reflect well. We know what Jimmy Savile was up to, and we know that for decades people were saying, Jimmy Savile is doing the following. What are you going to do about that? And no action was taken. It's a desperately ugly state of affairs. That's all I can really confidently say about Keir Starmer and the Jimmy Savile case. He was a dreadful human being. And plenty of people were saying he was a dreadful human being and nothing was done.
I don't even know, the Jimmy Savile matter was on the desk of the CPS. Whether the Met have investigated and here are CPS, deal with Jimmy Savile, the guy's a monster. But what we do know is that Keir Starmer, when he was head of the CPS, had to handle the riots that took place in London and across our country around 2007, where seemingly spontaneously youths across the nation engaged in these sort of oddly nihilistic, apolitical riots and kind of shop stormings and sort of mass lootings, as it were. And I remember at the time thinking, this is weird. It's not politicised, but there's a kind of though it was sort of started by the murder of Mark Duggan in police custody in North London, or at least that was the sort of the tinderbox spark. I remember thinking, this is because there's such a well of dissatisfaction and unhappiness in the country that it's sort of even nihilistic events are kind of spilling over. Now, Keir Starmer, when he was head of the CPS then, he expedited the trials of those people, handed out harsh sentences, tried minors as adults, kept courts open 24 hours a day, and cases that were meant to be tried in magistrates' courts were tried in Crown courts. And what I saw that as is a kind of, this is a guy that is authoritarian. That's how he approaches the matter of law. Now, if you accompany that with any kind of sort of negligence around serious matters that appear to pertain to sort of sex rings, pedophilia in the BBC, royal family, let's face it, David Icke territory once again, then, it's put simply kind of not a good look. And then when I add to it the Julian Assange stuff, he was leader of the opposition and possibly connected to the CPS all the while that Julian Assange was in Belmarsh without trial, 5 years there. Julian Assange, let's remember, who initially was condemned with false allegations of rape when the media started to hunt him down and recognise that some of his contributions to media were threatening. Our man Starmer there wasn't as leader of the opposition. Listen, I was head of the CPS. There's no way this dude should be in Belmarsh without trial. What's going on? He's a sort of a hero, and if not a hero, he's a journalist. And if he should be in prison, then you can jail journalists anywhere for reporting and not revealing their sources. So this sort of mosaic that appears of Keir Starmer even prior to political power is an indicator that he's precisely the kind of leader that you describe, someone that can be a vassal for global power. And of course, he famously said, I prefer Davos over Westminster.
You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Whoa! How did that get there? Is that freedom straight out of my bowels and into your mouth? Don't dwell on that image. This is a delicious dark roast from 1775. It smells like freedom. Did you know that drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee daily can reduce your risk of death by 29%? No! And halve your chances of heart complications? No! But what's the point if your coffee tastes like it was brewed by someone who thinks soy lattes are the pinnacle of human achievement? 1775 Coffee is here to reclaim coffee from the wokerati, if such a thing is a word or a term even. Hand-picked Bolivian beans. Don't be disgusting. That is not a euphemism for, flicking your old. Roasted in the USA, delivering pure single-origin brilliance without a hint of deceit. Sweet, truthful coffee. It's coffee for those seeking truth, depth, and the clarity to see through life's illusions, which is me and you. Come on, get on board. The best part? Every dollar you spend enters you to win a blacked out 2024 Tesla Cybertruck plus $30,000 of cash. Now, apparently I'm going to be driving around in this Cybertruck. I'll believe it when I actually see it, because I'm always getting told things like you're going to be driving around in a Cybertruck, and they never ever appear. If this Cybertruck appears, That is going to be it. You will see me drive it. I'm going to drive it in the water. I'm going to see if it works, as Musk claims, as an amphibious vehicle that can also be launched into space. Let's test those claims. Head to 7075. Yes, a Cybertruck, a modern-day Ark, ready to navigate the floods of uncertainty. Is this a metaphor? Was the Ark a metaphor? With the strength to carry you through any of life's trials. Head to 1775coffee.com, stock up and fuel your mornings with rebellion. Use this code for 15% off. Don't miss your chance to drive off in a Cybertruck and cash out with 30 grand. I mean, you can have a Cybertruck. We could all have Cybertrucks. Isn't that what we want? Coffee and Cybertrucks. Let's get back to the content. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.